apart from the tank and the collectors that we supply, the other components that you will receive when you purchase one of our AS systems is a roof connection kit, which is a component that we use for all the connections of the collectors together on the roof and the connection to the collectors. I'm going to open those up in a minute and go through it and explain a little bit more about it. Then we have a ground connection kit. This is the kit that we use to connect the pump box and the pump station onto the tank, and these items are, as they say, the ground connection kit. And finally, it's our pump station. This is an item that we have been building now for over 17 years. We had a couple of iterations and design changes, but this is the heart of the system in as much as it's the brains, if you like, which provides the circulation of the water through the collectors back into the tank and monitors the performance of the tank and the storage energy in there compared to what's available in the collector, and does a range of other diagnostic testing to ensure that at all times we're maximising the energy input to the tank and ensuring that we don't waste any of that valuable energy and the investments you put into this water heater. Finally, we've got a little device over here which I'm going to talk a bit about as a little test kit that we use just for our service staff to make sure that they understand when they get out onto site that they can test the product to make sure that it is working optimally. Also, when you've commissioned a system, you're leaving late in the afternoon, is the system working? You know, what are you going to do to make sure that your kit's in? And this provides a lot of those answers. So we'll go through that later. Needless to say, this is a service tool. This is one of the things that you would keep in your truck as opposed to your customer receiving all these other items. This is a roof connection kit. Part numbers are PK3102. What do we have in here? Okay, so first is a solar air vent valve. This is fairly important. A lot of companies don't provide this. What is the purpose of this? Well, water has a lot of gas in it. There's air gets in the system, particularly just after commissioning. And because the collectors are on the roof, gases and any of the air and so on in the water system will always percolate to the very top of the collector, and in doing so, because we've got a pump there, it can cause problems with the pump not being able to circulate. And when this happens, your pump's just free spinning and not actually doing anything to circulate the energy from the collector back into the tank. So what we do is we provide this as a standard with each of our products. It's a high temperature Kalifi air vent valve. What you've got to do is when you put it into the system, then I'll show you the particular connection that we use later, you've got to crack the top of it to allow the air to come out. So each of these have always had this screwed up. So you just need to crack that and allow, so that will always stay open once you leave it, and it's connected onto this device which we call a HotCon connection. Now this HotCon connection is situated at the very top of the collector, usually the top right hand or top left hand side. It's up to you. Inversely, you've got to bring the water from the pump into either the bottom left or bottom right, and it's got to be the opposite to the outlet. So this again uses our famous little 22mm fittings. They're all very high quality fittings which we provide. And this HotCon connection is specially designed for our system, so that what we can do is screw that into there. Obviously you need to make sure that it's all fitted off with requisite sealing tape or something. Let me just get that on there. I'm just trying to keep it for you to see. So that would be connected to the collector outlet at the top, and then this is the connection off to the return to the tank. In the end of it here, we've got this little deep well hot probe. Now this is the idea of this is we're going to talk a little bit about the thermistors or the sensors that we use. This goes into your HotCon and screws up in there, and again that goes into the collector, and that would then have our hot sensor, which is a PT1000 temperature sensitive thermistor. And that slides into there to ensure that we measure the temperature in the collector at the most valuable location, not connected to the outside, so you're only picking up a part of the real temperature of the collector, but it's actually located all the way to the end of it here. Now, I'll just talk a little bit about the other brass fittings before I come back to these devices now, because there is a little bit of an explanation needed about this. Obviously, we've got collector unions to put the collectors together. We've got some plugs because we're plugging off the collectors connections that aren't being used, and this is for your 22 to 3/4 for the connections to the flow and return back from the flow rather from the tank on the pump station. So they're all provided in the kit. We'll leave those in there, and they're all the standard fittings that we will always find with our product, which is 22mm olive fittings. Okay, we'll talk a lot more about these devices in the when we get to the pump station or PM602 discussion, but we include 20 metres of twin active with a Molinex plug on it for connection to our pump station, and this has got the hot probe. Now we use a silicon lead. Obviously, being up on the roof, has got a lot of ultraviolet and sunlight up there, and also a lot of heat. So the silicon leads are high temperature, better for that location, and then we can put them straight into the deep well probe here to the end. Little P clip there to tighten that down, make sure it doesn't move out. It's pre-connected, so it's you don't have to do anything more than that. That just goes underneath the tile or penetrate the roof through a steel. If you've got an iron roof, put it through a steel roof and make sure it's sealed up correctly. And the other end is brought down with the flow and return lines and cable tied to that, and then connected to the PM602. I'll show you where this connects to later, so you don't need any screws, screwdrivers or any other devices for something like this. Now we know as plumbers often you don't have small terminal screwdrivers and so forth, we've done these many years ago, and these have been used on all our systems now for well over 9 years, so we know that they work well. They're simple to use and they're very accurate. The sensors are a PT1000. There's a hot sensor and there's also a cold sensor. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about those and how they work when we get to the PM602. I mentioned before, this is the Kalifi solar air vent valve. It's a pretty important part of our system. It allows the discharge of gases and air that get trapped in the system at the very top of the collector where they percolate to or can accumulate. Without this, you can get your pump can cavitate and not be able to circulate properly. This is a high temperature valve. You can get these air vent valves in standard hot water design, which would be no more than 70, 80 degrees. But this one, because of our high stagnation temperatures of over 140 degrees in our collectors, you need to ensure that it is a high temperature solar air vent valve. The diaphragm inside it is able to manage the temperatures that it can obtain up in the collector. So please ensure that you don't put anything else there except the one that we provide and recommend in our system.